Okay, all right. Well, welcome everyone to the May 22nd Town Board meeting here at the Townhouse. For those here in the room, there's an exit to the front of the building and there's an exit to the rear of the building, in case needed. And if you will, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we'll start with public comment. Anyone here? Tim. Okay. State your name and your hamlet.
Good evening. My name is Tim Leonard, 43 Fairmount, Golden's Bridge. Good evening, Supervisor and Council people. I sent all of you an email this morning, which I'm sure you got. And I'm not going to go into super detail about it. I'm going to leave a hard copy here so it's part of your record about the water issue in the Wild Oaks Fairmount Road area. We've been undergoing a lot of stress with these tractor trailer trucks every week on our road, 2 at a time, 3 at a time, all day sometimes. And with our discussions, my discussions with the people directly involved with the water company, I discovered last week that there's a big holdup in why we're not getting our water from the wells that we're supposed to be getting it from. Wells were dug in the fall of 2021 because I physically watched it happen right out my kitchen window. And I know things take time with the Department of Health. It is what it is, but it shouldn't take 2 years. And then I found out that, well, there's a problem with the property owner of the land where the wells are located and where the filtration plant that they need is supposed to be. And like I said in this letter, when I moved to Golden's Bridge in 2003, I came to the building department. I asked, what is that property back there? Can it be built on? No, it was dedicated when they dedicated to someone when they subdivided this land back in the 70s. I have a neighbor with me who lives next door at 45 Fairmount. He'll tell you the same thing about what he thought of this property. And then when the water operator told me the same thing, a guy who's never even been around this neighborhood, when I asked him what the holdup is, and he says, oh, the guy's holding up the easements that we need and wants to sell us the property for $750,000 instead. I said, he owns the property? He's supposed to have, I thought that was parkland. And he said, yeah, it was supposed to be, but the paperwork never got done. That's a guy I've never met before. Once or twice I chat with him, but that's a guy completely outside of Lewisboro who's under the same assumption that me and he were. So what I would like the board or the town to do is somehow look into this property, find out, should it have been completely dedicated somehow and not be owned by this landowner? Or are there some kind of deed restrictions, easements, or whatever to allow this private water company to get the access they need promptly so we can get the water that we need? Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next.
Yes, thank you for hearing me. My name is Jeffrey Leibel, and I'm a neighbor of Tim Leonard. I live at 45 Fairmount Road, Golden's Bridge, and I moved in 1978. It was actually the last lot built, if you've ever been to the development. It was called, Wild Oaks Village, and it was sold to me. It was a separate developer than the original developer who developed all the other properties in the development. And we bought it privately. It was built on speculation about 4 or 5 years after every other building was built. With the last house on the dead end, Fairmount Road goes right into my driveway. And behind my property is, I was told, this is in 1978, one of the appeals to my wife and myself was that the property behind you was watershed property. It was dedicated. I was led to believe that it was given to the county and it will never be developed. And it is very difficult land and it's very wet back there. But I was shocked to hear this week when Tim found out that apparently the paperwork or whatever had to happen back then, where everybody in our neighborhood in the cul-de-sac believes there is an easement for the water company to get back through my property to the water plant. And back then there wasn't a development within our vicinity that the water plant was the capacity was enough to handle all of the people that lived. But now there've been some condos built, there've been some other things built, and everybody's tapping into our water and now we don't have enough water we're being told for the people that have lived there or living there now, and I've lived there for 44 years. And it's very concerning. And I believe that our town attorney should get involved in this and have some discovery of, we need to know what that property is and what are the restrictions, and can people privately buy and develop back there? Because that would be something that would be very, very upsetting to all my neighbors. And is there a question?
So you're in the cul-de-sac?
I'm in the cul-de-sac, 45 Fairmount, the last house in the cul-de-sac.
Because I'm in the Glen, so I'm down.
Oh, yeah, well, you've come on since I've lived there. There was no Glen.
I'm a newbie, I'm just 20
Okay,
years.
okay,
Yeah.
well, welcome. But you're taking, you're using my water. No,
So, yeah, so.
and when there was a fire the big fire down in Green Hill Road, they came and took the water from our pumps, which was our water coming,
In
that
Wild
was
Oaks.
in Wild Oaks. And so we have these big trucks coming in, and it bothers Tim more than it bothers me, but it bothers the neighbors, especially in front of the houses there all day, and it is running, and if there are children involved there, where they might be, smoking diesel, breathing in a lot of diesel, but it's unnecessary. I mean, there's no reason why we have to every couple of weeks have water brought in when we have, the facilities.
Well, thank you very much. So,
Okay.
yeah, time's up. Just so the board is aware, so Tim sent an email. I don't know if you all saw it yet, but there was a letter with a map describing what they just indicated to us. So the question is regarding this land, is there any influence, I guess, that the town has on this property? They believe there is, that can help with expediting the work that needs to be done to expand the water filtration that's needed for the groundwater system.
I mean, my understanding, and having spoken to that, there was supposed to be one more well that was going to be drilled. That's the announcement.
And that's been drilled. Yeah, so we're gonna follow up and see if there is any parkland or easement or anything on this property, and then we'll get back to you. Okay?
My only question was, how does the process work? How do we get notified of what progress, if any?
Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you both.
Appreciate this.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else here would like to comment? No? How about on Zoom?
Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak in South Salem, New York.
Yes,
I would like to follow up with a couple of things that were discussed at the last town board meeting on the 8th of May. Was the town board able to confirm with Highway that there were 3 bids received for the dirt removal at the salt dome, and how much dirt will fall under the proposed new lease agreement? Was the town board able to have conversations with candidates running for highway superintendent with regard to the lease agreement, and what ideas, plans they may have for the timber, mulch, and soil at the salt dome site? How was the $1,200 per year lease agreement valuation determined? While the lease agreement might save residents expenses, fees for processing and tipping, what is the cost to the environment? What you propose seems to me to be a short-sighted solution, and what I would hope you would do is what is best for the environment and long-term for residents. While the town may have priority of what is delivered and processed under this agreement to the salt dome, what measures will be taken to make sure there is always available space, especially in case of emergency, and since there will be no operation allowed from June 1st through Labor Day. I hope you would consider not passing this resolution since there are no operations allowed from June through Labor Day, like I said previously. Our election is in November. Why not let us wait and see what materializes and start fresh with a new highway superintendent? The space you are offering in this agreement is less than a half acre. Sort of reminds me of trying to stuff 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. Not a pretty picture. Finally, my main concern regarding this lease agreement is to make sure that the best decision is made for the environment and the many resources involved. I do not know the owner of Hickory Homes, and I have never talked to this person. This company has proven they do not care about our environment, our resources, and our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Simone O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not feeling that great, and I just wanted to ask a question. I don't see the ethics town code on the agenda again, and I know that Councilwoman Rendo has asked 2 different meetings to put it on. And I'm just wondering why it's such a problem getting it on the agenda, and if board members are allowed to put things on the agenda or only the town supervisor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simone. Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute.
Can you hear me, Jenna?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring up an issue of concern with all the Hamlet meetings going on for the Master Plan Steering Committee, and hearing this issue now over in Wild Oaks with their water. I know for a fact that a good amount of the plans for the Golden's Bridge Shopping Center, which I know has a new name now, but I can't remember what it is, does hinge on the shopping center or various businesses that may be put in there, or maybe if there's an interest in putting them in there, will depend on tapping into that water supply. So Kathy Hochul, Governor Hochul's building plan did not go through, but I know there still is a push for more housing, more cluster, for lack of a better word, cluster housing, and that some of these town centers are at the focal point of where that, more dense housing would go, close to the subways. I mean, the Metro North. I think we have to be very careful in that area, because I think some of the resources over there are being tapped out, and rezoning or allowing overlay zoning to be done over there is really going to affect many of the people who live there right now. So when the master plan is presented, and I know it's been discussed at many of their meetings, we have to be very careful about putting that kind of housing in Golden's Bridge, because it is an area where there are a lot of houses now. The resources are being taxed, and we certainly don't have the roadways over there. Thank you very much. Bye.
That's the last thing she said.
All right, thank you, Barbara.
But could you ask Barbara to unmute again? I couldn't hear the last thing that she said.
The last sentence. You missed that last part,
The
Barbara.
resources are being taxed.
Barbara.
Taxed.
Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute.
How's that?
Yep, yep.
Could you repeat your last sentence again for me?
Right. I said that there, it does seem like when you talk about something like water over there, there's a finite amount, and there are a lot of homes over there. Businesses want to move in that are may have to tap into those water supplies. There's a focus on cluster housing in areas around, say, Metro North and these small town centers. And I also mentioned that, quite frankly, the road infrastructure cannot support that kind of cluster housing. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, Mary.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. All right, so communications, I have a couple of things here. One of which is from the Department of Transportation. This was addressed to Peter Rippinger, our highway superintendent. Basically, it's a summary of the state funding for paving So the number is, rather than read the entire letter, it's the overall for 2023 summer paving, the consolidated highway improvement program funding, and also the POP, which is pave our potholes, and pave New York, and EWR, which is extreme winter recovery. The total of those is $344,990,000 that we are expecting to receive from New York State DOT. That's up from $285,000 the year before. Just wanted to share that with everyone. I do have another, in fact, this dropped off with me late this afternoon. There's a copy for each board member. Pass one down.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to read it? Should I read it?
I can read it.
Okay, I'll let you read
It came from Kirsten Conran, 23 Truesdale Lake, South Salem, New York. Addressed to the Honorable Tony Gonsalves, Supervisor and members of the Town Board, dated May 22nd, 2023. Dear Supervisor Gonsalves and members of the Town Board, I am writing because I believe the recent proposal to revise the Board of Ethics section of the Town Code is a proposed solution looking for a problem. While the Board of Ethics may be inactive, it serves as a necessary guardrail or insurance policy that will spring into action when necessary, i.e. when a complaint is filed. To better serve residents, please update lewisboro.gov.com with instructions on how to submit a complaint. As you know, the Town Code states that the Board of Ethics is to promulgate its own rules and regulations. Are the current members of the Board of Ethics proponents of the draft code revisions? Were they consulted on these proposed changes? Instead of rewriting the code, why hasn't the Town Board put its energies towards filling the current vacancy on this board? Secondly, I am against eliminating the requirement that the Board of Ethics shall include at least one member who is an elected or appointed town employee of the town of Lewisboro. This requirement, while not seen in many of our neighboring municipalities today, makes me wonder about the original intent of its mandate and if it is akin to a jury of one's peers. And then she puts a chart in and she indicates that Bedford has 5 members, in which at least one is a town official or employee. And Lewisboro has 3 members, of which one has to be in a town official or employee. North Salem does not have that requirement. Pound Ridge does not have the requirement. South Salem does not have the requirement. Nor does Yorktown, Somers, excuse me, does not have that requirement. And that requirement being one of the members of that particular board having a town official or employee as a member. Who better to understand the inner workings of the various departments in town than a town employee? Besides being well-versed in town code, the employees of Lewisboro follow the Sailor's Creed. That is, we are committed to excellence and the fair treatment of all. In closing, if the town board retains the current language in the code and does not amend the Board of Ethics chapter, I would like to be considered as an employee member of the Board of Ethics. Thank you for your time, Kirsten Conrad. And then she attached the copies of the ethics code for our review.
So, okay, so that's all I have for communications. Next is the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes of May 8th, 2023. Motion to approve the minutes of May 8th, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, on to new business. The first item, I actually, that was included in there erroneously. So we have to wait. There's a 30-day comment period after we posted the MS4 reports at the last meeting. So we actually cannot accept and authorize the supervisor to sign at this point. We have to wait until
The next
meeting. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, just look, that should be posted, Janet.
it was posted at the last meeting. That's when it was supposed
Is
to
it
be
like
posted
on the
up.
front page or?
It's on stormwater.
It's on this, yeah, stormwater committee.
That's where they've always been.
Yeah.
It should be on the left-hand side of stormwater.
There is an MS4 reports generic
Yep, should be right there.
here. Okay. I'm thinking it should also maybe go on notices or something like that, just to. This is easier to find, but no big deal, because it's not.
Yeah, I mean, we could. Post
Okay.
it to the front
Got it.
page, yeah.
Only because there's a 30-day comment period as opposed to just
So where would you like it?
informational.
Public notices or homepage?
You know, what we could do is put a link on the front. That takes it directly.
The spotlight, maybe?
It's in Spotlight, and that's in Spotlight right now.
Yeah. Well, so where do you think it should go then?
Just somewhere where people are, have an easier time finding it, or maybe
That scrolling bar that we used to use?
maybe even on
No,
the, or it could go like on the stormwater page itself. I'm open to it. It's just, I had a little.
I mean, we announced it at the
Well,
last
it's not-
meeting, it's in the minutes, people want
All right, that's fine. I mean, obviously, this is not a burning interest for most people, so.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
So, yeah, just said it the next, yeah. The next item is the acceptance of the pool concession bid. Nicole put out an RP, visited several potential places locally that would be able to support this. The folks that were doing it last year and years before that were not no longer doing this. So Lily down the street offered to do it. So this is us approving to have Lily staff the concession bid and with the food stand.
Right, and Parks and Rec is all
Yes, they're all in favor.
favor of this,
And this is the only response.
And this is the only
That's
response
correct.
we received. That's correct. Right.
they're excited about the menu.
What's,
Okay.
why does the agreement have like an April 3rd start date?
To get ready.
Oh, this is a deadline to submit the RFP response.
Okay.
The proposal. Yeah.
So we're authorizing you to sign, yes?
Well,
It's
accepting the bid.
accepting Lily as the vendor, I guess,
I think you're.
the vendor.
We're
Yeah.
just voting to award the bid to them.
I'm authorizing supervisor to sign anything.
Yeah, there will be. Yeah, last year I did sign. Yeah, there will be some to sign. So yeah, President Supervisor.
Get that, so anyone that we accept the bid, for the full concession, food concession, and authorize the supervisor to sign the associated agreement.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is this is the intermunicipality agreement for emergency 911 with the county. We don't have anything yet today, right? Greg?
That's
Greg's
correct.
Working with the folks at the county to change the language,
Right,
which
there's-
removes the requirement for us to have a call center.
The modification for the call center or contracting,
Right.
actually contracting for the call center.
Right.
It's been done a certain way for many years. I picked up the language and it was on a prior agenda and I've been
Right.
coordinating with Mr. Fernquist. Hopefully, we're going to speak this week,
Okay.
tomorrow, about what they'll accept for substituted language for that.
Right.
And then you can consider ratifying it.
Is there a previous existing agreement? with
They
us?
are, and it is,
And it has the same language that it.
Because,
Greg
yeah,
didn't like.
That was.
It's
a
there.
discussion we had.
so.
Right. That was a discussion about the state police and that we went back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember.
I look forward to that agreement being signed.
Yes. Don't worry, we still have 911 services. so that's-
I'm
that's
well
okay.
aware
Yeah.
of that.
Okay, next is the resolution supporting 40 Old Pond Roads application for it's a stormwater control facility maintenance agreement and easement. So the homeowner, property owner did sign the agreement last week, and this is authorizing the supervisor to kind of sign. It's a standard stormwater agreement that we do whenever there is.
Right. If the owner constructs and maintains it, and if they fail to do so, the town has the easement to go in and do so and then charge the owner for the cost of doing that, but we're required to have it, your MS4 officer in conjunction with the MS4 requirements
Right,
in those facilities.
right. Someone like to motion authorize the supervisor to sign?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is the appointment of a park groundskeeper, Zachary Emerling. So this is someone that Nicole Caviola wants to hire for Parks and Rec as a groundskeeper. And she would like the board to go ahead and approve his hiring. She interviewed him and feels that he's the right person for the job.
I move.
I'll second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And the next one is a resolution appointing the assistant building inspector, which is Stephen Sorrow. Steve had done some work for us. He's gone through the certification processes with the state. He was number one on the assistant building inspector civil service list, and we want to go ahead and offer him the position.
Just a question on that, which is fine. I just want to know how, in light of and this is the process we're going towards, which is good. In appointing the assistant building inspector, what's the role for the outside contractor that we've had, which has helped to address the backlog now that the assistant building inspector is in place? So what's the game plan as far as
we're going to so the third party contractor Labella won't be as involved as they are today. We'll still keep them on for important large projects as needed. And so eventually, we've already taken on more of what Labella was doing with Kevin.
Right. No, I mean, I think, and I appreciate the policy of bringing them on, because what we were able to accomplish as a priority to the homeowners and taxpayers in the town is to do a good job in alleviating the backlog, is my understanding. We've been successful in doing that.
Correct.
Right. The building inspector on and the assistant building inspectors are building the department back up. So I think we should, in determining going forward with Labella, we should have some kind of cost benefit analysis as far as on a going forward basis, so we can take a look at it and just as a factor as to what's the most cost efficient basis. I'm balancing as far as the time issue or backlog, but we should take a look at that now.
Kevin and I, we actually met last week and we took just a rough look at the numbers. So, but the plan is to put something together that we can then review in more detail and present to the board.
Yeah, because I think,
but it's and the other thing that's happened, it's applications have continue to come in, and we've done very well with processing those applications fairly quickly, and you'll see at next month's report the revenue numbers are actually up for building department.
Yeah, which I guess the strength probably with Labella would be focusing on bigger projects, the outside resources to make sure that bigger projects with bigger potential revenue get to the town and getting moved through as quickly as possible.
Do we have a start date?
May 30th, Tuesday.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next I have, I emailed the board, the MOA for the maintenance unit. And then we also have one for the PBA, which I didn't include in here, but we were able to finalize that, and they were asking that we at least get the MOA approved, which then goes to the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. So in terms of the maintenance unit MOA, which is on the agenda, to get board approval to move forward with the MOA. And
Greg, can you just maybe give a thumbnail of the essential highlight provisions as far as term and the agreement, as well as
Maintenance is actually the CBA. They actually made the modification. They did not go
that's correct.
the two-step process.
Right.
So we have in principle, after discussions with the negotiating team, have a conceptual agreement. The long and short of it comes down to compensation increases, and it's a 6-year proposed agreement with raises for 2%, 4%, 3.5%, 3.5%, 3.25%, and 3% from 21 through 26.
this is a retroactive application to 21
and 22.
Correct.
And Greg, for our neighbors at home, CBA stands for.
Collective bargaining agreement. And-
just so everybody
Okay.
understands.
And the the PBA, the Police and Benevolent Association, they are doing a two-step process where we consider a memorandum of agreement, which has the core terms of the modification of the old agreement at first, and then they'll bring us the final CBA at a probably reasonably near future date if you agree to the memorandum of.
Right, once the MOA gets approved, they then ratify
Or-
the unit members.
Yeah, they put it to a vote.
Yeah,
Hopefully
exactly.
ratify.
Right.
But that's, this is for maintenance, which was, a group that, is represented by the local 456.
Right.
Teamsters. And again, it's a 6-year agreement, and those are the main points of discussion and contention were compensation. And those are the raises for the years.
Kudos to the Teamsters 456. Since they've been relatively new on board, we have now a 6-year agreement in place. Long-term agreement, which would be good for
Right.
knowing what our costs are going out for 6 years.
Yeah.
So if you're voting this, it will be to approve the collective bargaining agreement.
Now, the only thing is there was that error I found in the rate table,
Correct.
which they haven't responded to my email yet. So we're gonna approve.
Subject to clarification.
They actually undershot their
A wage.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years
I
for one of
move,
the positions.
I move that we accept the CBA for the maintenance unit of the Teamsters and allow for approve of the supervisor to sign for the town.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And then same with the,
We vote, do we do the same
You
thing
should,
for
can you
the,
roll call that?
Oh, roll
Do you
call?
not mind? I'm sorry. On that one.
okay, Rich?
Aye.
Mary?
Mary Shaw, aye.
Tony? Aye.
Andrea Rendo, aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Do we do the same thing for the PBA right now for the MOA? Aye.
Yes, so unless there's any questions, that's,
It's being added as a lead item? Or-
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Greg, can you circle back on the PBA?
Correct.
About the MOA PBA?
Sure. Supervisor, this was a 5-year agreement, correct?
That's correct through to 2026.
Okay. No,
Actually, sorry, 6 years.
did we go 6? Did it finally go 6? I know that there was some
Through
discussion about.
December of.
It does.
2025, so it's.
I think it was only 5 years.
It's
We
5 years,
originally
sorry.
were 4. And the final year is what?
The email, oh,
I know.
okay.
The
That's
email,
what- that's why I'm asking.
I erroneously added a 2026, so hold on a second. I think there's. Yeah, I got confused with because cut and paste,
I think we've been out without a PBA agreement since
2020. Well, it expired in
It expired.
2020.
Yeah,
At the end of 2020. But the difference with the PBA is we've been in negotiations the entire time. And local 456 just got involved with maintenance and highway within the last probably 8 or 10 months.
so our retroactive term date is matching up for maintenance as
It's
well.
matching up
Highway,
either way.
January 2021.
Correct. So
That makes things.
this is a,
So in my email, just to correct my email, the plus out the 2026.
correct.
3%, yeah.
So it's a 5-year from 2021, 1/1/21 to 12/31/2025 at 2.5%, 3%, 3%, 3%, and 3.25% increases for that 5-year window. And you would have the retro for 2.5 years of it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's also the policy we've been negotiating, the PBA, we're trying to get a long-term agreement in place. Again, it just helps this financial stability of the town and being able, I guess, from a budgetary perspective,
Plan.
knowing that these pieces are in place really help
Right.
with our personnel costs moving forward.
It's also good for the police officers to know what they've got coming into their pocket.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go through the negotiations again next year.
And move that we approve the MOA
A second.
for the PBA.
And authorize the supervisor to sign.
I don't know about that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yes, I second Mary's motion.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, just want to thank the members of the Lewisboro PBA. It's been their negotiations. It's been a long process, and glad to see it's come to fruition with the long-term agreement in place.
Thank you for your patience.
And
Yes.
your tenacity. Rich, Rico,
Roll call.
Mary Shaw, I.
Tony, I.
Andrea Rendo, aye.
Okay. So that was the new business, old business. We have the highway lease agreement for the wood and salt processing, which at the last meeting. We agreed that we'd go back and give it some thought. And so it's back on the agenda for us to make a decision. Do we want to move forward with the 3-year term? There was some discussion about.
Yeah, just, I guess, I mean, I like all the work that's been done here. Well, concerning, this person Shaw also part of myself and going back and reviewing the agreement. My only, concern at this point really is referable to the, not necessarily the term in and of itself, is that in going back and reading it, there's no provision if there's any issue, say, of what is understood to be, say, a significant breach of the agreement, say, on behalf of the town. There's no provision here to cure that, eventually, invalidate the agreement. See, there's a provision if there's damage. One of the provisions of the agreement, I think, very correct, is a 90-day provision if it's damage to the property, but there's nothing holding the feet to the fire of Hickory during the term of the agreement, not abiding by material term. That's the terms are okay, just making sure that everything's done and all the provisions that we have incorporated here. For example, like one of the things that's in here, and this is something that the neighbors have brought. For example, every 15 days, it has to be watered down to make sure that there's no fire hazard, for example. That provision is in there, which is good to make sure that the safety is protected of the residents in the community.
The
But-
environment.
Yeah. But if that is not done, there's no provision in there to ensure that it is.
Actually, there is default language,
There is default language,
Article 13.
the 15-day notice secure in there.
That's the default language. Yeah, it was like the wording of that was that broad enough to incorporate? That's my concern.
Report shall be made in any other covenants or conditions to be kept observed and performed by the tenant. Meaning covenants and conditions of the agreement.
And it concludes the landlord shall have, in addition to the remedy above provided, any other right or remedy available to landlord on account of any tenant default, either in law or equity. Landlord shall use reasonable efforts to mitigate its damages.
But there's no opportunity to terminate the agreement if it's not cured.
If you declare them in default, you're going to, one way or another, recover the premises. You're going to seek to recover the premises from the tenant. I'm not trying to talk you into or out of adding or modifying language. I think that what's in there gives the town that right. But if there's something that's more assertive or something that's more concrete, then we can make that modification as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's my only caveat. I mean, I like the language to be a little bit clearer because we have very defined terms here, which we've done a lot of legwork, also with the input Hickory to make sure it's something that they can, comply with.
Yes.
So we have very specific terms, and then we have a default provision. It's not.
The
doesn't match up.
default is, call it, or gives us the ability to terminate the lease. Maybe there should be some reference to surviving obligations. I mean, if we terminate the lease, but they leave us with, a disaster area.
Consequential damages.
Right. We could have some kind of liquidated damages provision.
At least consequential. I mean,
Yeah.
we're holding very little in terms of the rental is kind of nominal compared to the services you'll get under the lease for the processing of the town's own wooden materials. I think
Right.
that's
It's
the rest of the
consequential
story.
because it's
If there's a
the agreement
cleanup
about
or-
the lease.
Or something regulatory or something like that, that they would be responsible for it. ultimately.
So that means if they damage the environment, they've got to clean it up.
To the extent that the town would have the right to enforce that, yes. Or if
Well,
there's a regulatory, we get an NOV from the state. Okay.
From
Then-
DC, for
Yeah,
example.
then that would be from their operations. The consequential damages would be whatever the cost of having the town comply with that.
Where I'm thinking, just like, they bring in a bunch of stuff from other places and we say, no, and then they just.
And then we
walk
can't get rid of it.
They just leave it there or whatever.
Same.
Is that's consequential?
I would categorize it that way too.
Yeah, because we have good language as far as tenant being solely responsible for compliance with local, state, and federal laws and regulations with respect to we incorporated that, including DEC regulations, which we know about the 2017, I think was regulations that came into play.
I'm just imagining we have to craft that. We have to put some kind of box around the consequential damages that, because that's a scary term for people because they can go all kinds of places. So I think, I'm specifically thinking of like them leaving a mess.
Yes, and on that point that Dan's bringing up, if the agreement didn't work out well for Hickory during the 3-year term, we don't want them essentially just walking away because they can. And also leaving part of the economic benefit of the town is they're taking without limitation what we're putting there. So we got to make sure that each side is adequately protected. Other than that, all the provisions of the agreement, I think, are sound and well drafted. I just think we got to make sure that final piece is taken care of. And that would also include the term. We have, I think because Mary was communicating about this, whether it's a 1-year or 3-year term, I think is kind of academic. If we have sufficient provisions, if there's a material breach that we're protected. So I'm fine with the 3 years so long as we have that protection.
Right.
Because I think we all agreed prior to that a year would be something that would make us all happy and that it gives us the opportunity to see how things go. And it gives us the freedom and ability to pull back if things don't go the way our expectations were.
Right, so
Yeah,
it's either or, either got to be 1 year like you're talking about, we have to have sufficient language that if there's an issue, address it, early in the term. So Greg, do you have any thoughts?
Well,
Draftsmanship wise?
I do. I send it to the board tomorrow if you want. I don't think it's a heavy lift in terms of
No, I think we have really one
additional
paragraph,
language.
one paragraph we have to modify here, and both with the issues as well as with Dan's bringing up the consequential damages. That's
Would that change in the lease agreement require us to put it back out again?
What transpired was the town sought competitive pricing to lease the property. It's not a public works project,
Oh,
it's not
that's
a purchase of goods. It is subject to a permissive, once you approve it, and you'll have to have that period run and presumably either not have a petition filed or clear the referendum to allow you to sign it.
Right.
But that the fail safe is there. So if you wanted to do it with just one vendor, then you could.
That's minor enough that we can do this contingent or subject
on those
to
changes.
finalize the.
I personally would rather see the language first.
Okay.
And just the value of this, I just want to read into the record here in paragraph 9, tenant expressly agrees to process any and all waste, wood, or storm-created debris brought or delivered to the subject property by the landlord, meaning the town, or its agent, servants, employees, etc., during the term of this agreement without any cost or set off of the tenant's rental obligations.
Whereas before, we would pay it, any storm-related debris would be outside of the.
Right, this is a tremendous
the local
benefit that we had to
processing.
pay extra,
Yeah.
and also we had the potential issue as to whether Hickory's the work that they were doing there was going to essentially box out based upon the space and not being able to take the down stuff. But here we're protected well, I think.
So we've got language in the agreement about the maximum amount that can be in there. The town can bring all of our storm damage and wood in, and they have to process that first. And we have the right
Without cost.
without cost. So we're saving money by having this agreement?
Yes, and we're protected in cases, unusual storm damage during the year. So. And also we're dealing with the environmental protection that we needed to do, ensuring the regulatory compliance, ensuring that the hours that this is done is taken care of, addressing the issue to the neighbors, because from July 4th through Labor Day, none of these operations. No, it's actually July.
Oh,
4th.
It actually- July.
Carol said
Okay.
Labor Day. Carol said June 1 during the comments, actually.
I'm
The
sorry.
text is July 4th.
Okay,
Which means that they only have
1 month.
1 month. To do any work, assuming we pass it.
Well, and that also ties, because I remember conversations with Hickory, the season, as it were, for the stuff that they're doing really effectively runs at the end of June or so. So it works out with what the season in utilizing the product there.
So we'll wait to get the language before we vote on it?
Yeah, I'm
Is
fine.
everybody good with that?
Yeah, we should. I think Tony can get, I'm sorry, Tony, I think Greg said he can get it to us short
I
order.
can have it
We can
tomorrow.
put it on the next time's agenda. We have a work session, looks like. We can put it
We
on
have work
approval.
session, June 12th, and then that brings us to June 22nd.
We can
And
put it on for
basically
approval
they-
for that, can't we? On the
They
work session?
can't start any work until after Labor Day.
Well, can we put it on the work session agenda? can
We
approve it
could,
there,
we
right?
could.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why don't
We're
we
probably
do
gonna
that?
have the CBAs, the CBA for the PBA. Possibly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Likely.
June 12th.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's input on this. This also, we had good input from members of the community on this, so.
The
it'll be a-
neighbors,
Yeah. You. So, it's end up with best work product we can.
Okay, so June 12th, we'll look at the language that Greg's gonna provide. And put it on the agenda for June 12th.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all I have for new business.
old business, old business.
I'm sorry, old business. Public comment number 2 for new business only. Anyone here have a public? Go ahead, Alana.
He's done.
Hi there, my name's Elena Dunn from South Salem. Just happy to,
Sorry, I called you Alana.
Elena, it's okay. Just happy to learn that Lily's Deli will be doing the pool concession. And sad that everybody else is going to be eating the empanadas and I probably will have to wait to get mine. But I think that's wonderful. I'm very happy she's a great business owner. We're happy to have her here in the neighborhood. And also thrilled to learn that Zachary Amerling is going to be a groundskeeper, another great family, hardworking, dedicated, and happy to learn all this. So thank you all for your time and service.
Thank you, Alana. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom?
Barbara Mangione, asking you to unmute.
Is that okay, Jenna?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say, thank you to our police department. Last week was Police Recognition Week. So I just want to thank our officers and our chief. I know this week is EMS Recognition Week, so I want to thank LVAC and also the Vista EMTs. And one other thing, thank you so much to the Sustainability Committee for the paint recycling event. I cannot tell you how hard, I'm sure you all know how hard it is to get rid of used paint. And it was just such a great service, and the event it was run so smoothly. I saw Dan that morning. It was amazing how well planned out it was and how hard the volunteers worked, and everybody was really nice. So thank you for having that. I got rid of a lot of paint cans.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I appreciate you tabling the resolution for the lease agreement, but I'm not sure that I agree with the reasons that you're going to table it. For a town that is so heavy on wetlands laws, wetlands violations, stormwater runoff, fining citizens, making them pay extra fees to get more and more studies done. I'm not sure that this aligns with with what our mantra is. I mean, this doesn't seem right. If you consider what the surrounding wetlands are to the that property, it's tremendous, and especially where the water runoff goes. So don't agree with that, but I also don't agree with not reading all correspondence into communication. What happened there? And finally, if I speak in public communication period 1, when do my questions ever get answered? It just goes, unheard. Or if you hear it, you choose not to respond. So maybe we should have a sit-down meeting, the whole town board and myself. I would love to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And that's it.
So, okay. Right, so next we have approval of claims, so motion to approve claims.
So
Discussion?
Second,
Oh, sorry. Second. Can you tell I'm trying to get to because he.
thank you. I appreciate that.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, polling of the board. Start with Andrea.
I want to give a shout out to everyone who participated in this weekend's Hamlet meeting for Walkabuck in South Salem, and those of you who can't make other ones. We had 2 meetings on Saturday, 10:30 a.m. and then again at 2. Even though the rain was horrific on Saturday, the feedback was that we had wonderful participation. I was there during the first session, went back to check in during the second session, so that was great. Thank you to LVAC for sponsoring such a great open house, again, in the rain. But it looked like they had a pretty good turnout as well. And also thank you to those people who donated gift cards to the family who lost their home in Golden's Bridge. There was a collection of those items over in Golden's Bridge on Saturday. The next Hamlet meeting will be on June 10th. Again, on Saturday, June 10th, the first session will be 10:30 to 12:30. The second session will be 2 to 4 p.m. And that will be Vista and Lewisboro. So hopefully the turnout will be as strong. And so thank you again. The couple other things I wanted to address were I was getting some feedback from the community that there was concern about this town board intending to borrow money to pave state roads and things of that nature. I was confused, so I thought maybe it needed some clarification before things got a little further on that rumor. The town does not pave state roads. It's not our responsibility. We're not borrowing money to pave state roads. That wasn't the intention. I believe the discussion that occurred was on the heels of comments made by our residents about sidewalks. That they had come to a meeting and a number of residents had talked about sidewalks and bike paths and things of that nature. Again, also in connection with some of the conversations going on during the master plan, steering committee meetings, the Hamlet meetings and things of that nature. I think at that time, Mr. Welch brought up the fact that there had been some discussion many years ago about doing such a project over on the Golden's Bridge side of town. And there was discussion, not a decision, but a discussion that perhaps one of the ways that we could pay for something like that was to consider a bond, which was subject to public referendum, which means the public would get to vote on whether or not the town would borrow money for such a thing. And I believe there was discussion afterwards during which there was some debate. Well, if you're going to borrow money, why don't you borrow for roads versus bicycle paths and sidewalks? This town board has not decided, at least not during any of the meetings I've been at, to borrow money to pave state roads or anything else. I think that that would be putting the cart before the horse. We are in the midst of a very intensive process with the steering committee. And I think that an appropriate time to address how the goals of that master plan are met would be after it's completed and we actually see what those goals are. So I just thought it was important to clear that up for everybody before things get a little out of control. As far as the my request twice to have any potential changes to the ethics code to be put on the town board agenda. It has not. It is my understanding that in fact, any town board member can ask that an agenda item be added, which it has not. And this will be my third request. I appreciate Kirsten Conrad's comments. And I think those will become very important at a time when a change to that particular section of the code goes to public hearing, and we can take those comments into consideration. As of right now, there is no avenue by which a resident may make inquiry as to whether or not there is an action or potential action on behalf of an employee or an official of the town that may be considered an ethical violation. The committee itself is a committee of one right now. It's supposed to be a committee of three. So no one employee or official otherwise has been appointed to fill that potential slot, nor has the resident who has stepped down from that slot has their position been reappointed. So I have sent questions and posed some thoughts to my fellow board members, which I've asked them to consider. And we had said that we would discuss them at a town board meeting. So I am again requesting that the matter of the ethics code, and again, this ethics code doesn't have to come out the way that I propose it. It would be something that we would all have to agree on and discuss. So I am again asking that this matter be added as an agenda item to our next meeting so that we can have that discussion.
Since we just got Kirsten, I'd like to hear, I mean, not putting you on the spot, but I appreciate Kirsten's letter and comments, and I'd like to get, your thoughts about that as far as her input.
Well, I did comment. She had indicated that if at such time we appointed a town employee and/or official, she would like to volunteer for that. She did point to other municipalities. Only one other municipality that she listed had the requirement that a town official or employee be on the committee. I believe, me personally, I do not believe that we're a very small town. And I think that you're asking a town employee to judge the behavior of someone that they work with. I think that is not a great situation, whether you volunteer for it or not, to put it in. And I think it needs to have a closer look at that. I don't believe that we need a town official or employee on such a small board. And I feel that there were some issues that were raised, and I didn't come prepared to discuss all those things that I emailed to everyone already. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that Kirsten took enough interest in it to send us a letter with her thoughts on it. And I think it's important to take those into consideration when we have our discussion. That's all I have. I think that was a long enough comment. Yeah.
I enjoyed the spaghetti dinner at the Vista Firehouse with my neighbors. They served food from La Vista restaurant, and it was most delicious. I'm grateful for my neighbors, and I'm grateful that we live in such, even though we're a small town and that we've got a small budget, our poverty rate is at 3%. And I grew up in a town that its current poverty rate is 38%. So I'm just expressing my gratitude and love your family and your neighbors. Don't take anything for granted.
Rich.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just want to echo what Andrew's saying. I appreciate the outpouring community support, both on gift cards as well as the GoFundMe. I think just really heartening community support for Golden Bridge families gone through some tragedy. It's just wonderful to see the community stepping up as it does time and time again. In between the raindrops, went through LVACs up in the house, which I think most of us were there at different times. And it's just a great operation, and the dedicated, more of our dedicated first responders that just help to make this community run. It's just a fantastic facility. And I got to have a little discussion about the ambulances and how that works, and how those are produced and conform to what we need. And we're all back, so appreciate everything that's done there. And for anybody who says, I need something to do in Lewisboro, this is, we're about to hit the sweet spot here. We have coming up Memorial Day festivities. We have the playground opening June 3rd. We have Juneteenth, Pride celebrations, and fireworks at the end of June. So take a look at the town calendar, plan accordingly. It's going to be beautiful weather for each of those events. And a great opportunity to see your neighbors, as particular new residents that have moved to town last few years. Please make sure you get out and experience all that Lewisboro has to offer.
Reach out if you want to volunteer at any of these events. We could always use a hand.
I think they're also having a fair at Arlington too, like June 3rd, like same weekend as the playground opening.
Oh, that's
as
the
well.
fair day.
Fine.
Fine day fair.
Fine day, so.
That's a private, yeah. But that's another event that. Dan.
Come back to your point about paving state roads. So no, we're not going to, just do the normal maintenance paving. There could be a conceivable event where we, the people in Vista want to put in a bike path on the side of the road. You have to go to the state and get right away authority to do that work, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of the state road, but it's not like we're going to, take over the paving duties of that state road. So that should be clear anyway. National Trails Day. There's a hike on June 3rd in the Levy Preserve. It starts at 10 a.m. Led by George Scott, and be about 3 miles long, rated easy to moderate. You'll see all the cool historical leavings in the Levy Preserve and the overlooks, things like that. So that should be fun. 10 a.m. And just to repeat, praise for the Sustainability Committee. They worked really hard, and especially Andrea Rojas did a tremendous amount of work to get it organized and work with the green sheen paint recovery outfit. And Tom Kelly also, it was his idea initially, and then all the members came out and worked their tails off that morning. So thanks to them.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, that was great. That paint recycling. Yes, and Andrea Rojas and Tom Kelly were there, and Bob Whitaker and Dan. So
Chairman Chris.
And
Chairman Chris.
Oh, Chairman Chris Carper, yeah.
Some interns.
Yeah, so it was well staffed.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It worked out well. And the pallets of paint, it was just unbelievable to see so many pallets collected. So that was pretty good.
A full 40-foot container truck.
Yeah, tractor trailer full. Yeah. So that was awesome. LVAC open house. I mean, if anyone can take the opportunity to get to know who is LVAC, you should. These are tremendous individuals who have a passion for this work, and they do a terrific job. And the demos that they were giving that day was just very educational, very interesting to see, what they do in various emergency situations and the equipment they use.
One of the things that they need, they mentioned, they are looking for drivers back. And it's which you can break it down. It's a 12-hour commitment. So you can, if you're not in the EMS side or the need drivers.
Yeah.
And it's so that's something you should reach out to about.
Yeah.
That's gonna be on my town bucket list.
Yeah. And in general, they're always looking for volunteers, not only LVAC, but our fire departments. So if there's anyone out there who's interested, definitely sign up. Yeah, the fires we had, one of them was on my street, Green Hill Road, Golden's Bridge. And so I got to see our first responders in action. Everyone from fire department, LVAC was there, the police department were there. It was just great to see this coordinated effort, and of course the mutual aid from surrounding communities as well. So it was just to see their professionalism and the way they handled the situation. It was just spectacular. These are things that we don't see typically, but to know that knowledge is there, and that there are people that are willing to volunteer their time to do this work is just incredible. So that was, yeah, and thanks to everyone who helped out the family in Goldensbridge. Hopefully after living there a year, having recently bought the house, hopefully they'll be able to get back on their feet sooner than later. The pasta night was great. Yeah, you were there.
I was there. I was there.
I was not there.
Oh, you weren't there. You were
I
right.
was
That's right. Yeah, it was you. Yeah, we sat. So as a matter of fact, we sat next to, and I didn't know it was him until he mentioned his name, someone who's on the Board of Ethics. And it's actually two people. There's two people on the Board of Ethics. So Bill Schachter was there. So I spoke to him a little bit about, is it Bill? Bill William Schachter. But anyway, he, yeah, so I do encourage the board members to talk to the two members that are there, including Larry Mandluker, just to get their feedback on things. The feedback that Andrew is waiting, yeah, I haven't seen that either. So I'd love to see that feedback come in so that when we do have a discussion, we know what we're reviewing.
Some of us did give some feedback earlier.
Yes, you did.
Okay, okay.
We'll continue to give feedback.
Okay, must have not replied all. That's okay.
That's
okay.
Did reply on.
Maybe it's lost in my inbox, which is busy these days, but yeah, so what else? Carol Sarnik had a question about the soil bids. So I did request Carol after the last meeting to, from what I understand, they did approach, again, this did not have, it was actually not a bid because of the
Below the threshold.
Yeah, it was below the bid threshold. So this was a request for proposal. And the request that the proposal that we received is the one that we went with. But I did ask for any feedback that was received from the two other, I believe there were a total of three that were approached, three companies. Barbara Mangione, the housing, the water situation. Yeah, just a correction, the Goldensbridge Shopping Center are not planning on tapping into the water district at Oak Ridge. They have their own wells. I'm sorry, Wild Oaks, sorry. So yeah, so they have their own wells, and as part of their expansion, they're not currently, at least to my knowledge, not planning on tapping into the Wild Oaks.
The shopping center has their own.
Correct. The shopping center does,
the
and they have their own septic, and the housing development on 20 also has their own. So I just want to clarify that point.
So they have their own self-contained water access.
Correct.
I do think she just meant resources in general. I don't know. but
And she
maybe-
said infrastructure.
Yeah.
Thinking about roads and
Right.
things like that.
So that's yeah, so that's I think that's all. Oh, one more thing. So the steering committee, they asked me to, this is from Katie McGinn. They secured a couple of donations from residents. One was to cover a partial cost of the lawn signs, and this the donation of $100 was provided by Jim and Rebecca Robinson, Lewisboro residents. And for the large posters, AIA Imprint Group and Bill Swartberger, it was a $200 donation. So thank you very much, Bill and Jim and Rebecca Robinson, for your donations to our steering committee for the comprehensive plan. And Memorial Day, I know Rich mentioned it, but I'll mention it again.
Parade.
There are races on next Monday. I actually signed up for the 5K, so hopefully I'll do well. We'll see. But there is a parade. We're gonna have some nice cars, old classics, in the parade, and there'll be a ceremony here in front of the townhouse. So looking forward to have as many people come to that as possible.
What time do you know?
It's at, the parade will start at 11:45. Correct me if I'm wrong, Janet.
Correct, but kicks off at 12:15. Assemble at 11.
Oh, assemble at 11:45. Parade starts at 12:15. So we should be here at the townhouse 12:30-ish or so. So make sure you come out for that. That's all I have. And let's see. Next is announcements. Town board work session for the next meeting, Monday, June 12th. And that's where we're gonna discuss the it's an opportunity. This was a request that came out of the steering committee to have various boards and committees provide input and come to the meeting prepared with input that they can share with us, the town board, as well as the steering committee for the comprehensive plan. So we'll have a work session, and looking forward to hearing what they have to say and their feedback. So that's the purpose of that meeting.
It's not just the steering committee for the comprehensive plan, isn't it also the conservation of?
Well, that's right. Yeah, so it's various boards and committees. So it includes the zoning board of appeals, the planning board, CAC. I think it was
Consultants.
the consultants.
For this comprehensive plan?
MPB, they should, but I'll verify that. It should definitely be there. Yes, I'm pretty sure they will.
If anybody's gonna have any written materials, I mean, maybe they can just try and get it to us. So we can. have an
Yeah,
opportunity
I've
to
asked them
review
to
it.
come prepared, so, but.
No, but we can read
Have it
it.
ahead of time?
We could, yeah, we can read it.
Yeah.
You know, there's gonna be a lot of written materials.
Yeah.
We can have an opportunity to digest.
Is this
Be great.
going to include our fire departments or just the town?
Just those, yeah. Okay, so I'll get
I mean,
the,
the medium for this is still the goals and objectives document, I think, so. I think, do we expect them to have actual written stuff or it's?
No, if they do, I just want a chance. To if they don't.
if they, yeah.
It's
if they
not
do, I'll-
required.
sorry, but If they do, I asked them to come prepared to.
But if
Yeah,
it's gonna be a presentation of sorts, we would like to have some things done now.
Right. But I'm pretty sure MPB are gonna be there because they're the ones that are capturing this data. So,
Are they? I'm not sure about that.
no, I'll check with Katie, yeah.
We're moving into executive session.
Yes, so let's see, so we're going to executive session, motion to go into executive session for personnel issue.
Second.
Discussion.
Personal issue.
All in favor?
Oh.
Aye. Okay, thank you all very much for coming out, folks.